Hi Nikki, I hope you're doing well. First of all, congratulations for completing the lighting class. I think you've done well to stick with it and complete the assignments as we go through each week. And I can tell in your proposal how much you've learned. You really have improved a great deal with your ability to control light. And I think that's the main thing about the course is really getting control of how you can position your camera, yourself, your lights, and so on to really communicate through light. And I think you've gotten a good start on that, and I feel like you're ready for PHOA 202 studio photography. I think you're ready and will do well in that course. I want to mention one thing right up front, really quick, that you shouldn't reuse a photograph. So you have the cover photograph. Every photograph should be different in your proposal. So you've got this one repeated, and you had a lot of really good images from this particular shoot. So it'd be very easy for you just to use it. Pick another one for in the inside of your portfolio. I did mention that in a post this morning. So hopefully you'll see this before the class ends and you can update it. It'll just help your grade a little bit because I'll have to subtract a bit for just repeating the photograph. But other than that, your content's looking good. But you have other good ones you could use. This is a great start to the portfolio. It's one of your best images for a couple reasons. One, the composition is really interesting. The fact that you've kept it very simple with a symmetrical shape, but there's enough variance in the I guess texture of the lemon that with the seeds that don't go all the way around, the little tear in the lemon up here that make it more interesting. Like it's not the perfect lemon, and there's things to look at around it. I would say that if I were going to improve this, I would probably just retouch out some of these things, like the little hair or whatever that is that's kind of plain off the edge, um, that sort of thing right there too. Wouldn't be needed. It really just kind of adds it pulls our eye that way. But the exposure is done well, and also I think you've definitely completed that assignment well and evoked the power of light with this. Your essay is really well done. It looks like you've read through it. I didn't catch any typos or anything. But also I think you've done a good job describing a little bit what you've learned and also about describing kind of what I'm about ready to look at. So I think that is well done. Then you've done a good job of pairing things together. I actually thought these pairing of the flower and the model worked pretty nicely just because it kind of creates a balance between the two to have the person and the object. So I think that worked well. I think another option would be to do all the portraits together, that kind of thing. That would be another option. But I think your pairings worked out pretty well as far as there's no big color jumps between the two images. Like these are both kind of cooler colors. It's a cooler light and it's a cool outdoor light on her face in color temperature. The same here. And then these are both a little bit warm on the warmer side. So that was a good job done there. All right, coming back to the first one, this is not really quite 1 to 2, so I want to make sure that you understand that. This is really more like 1 to 8 with the deep shadow here. I mean, it's not really a deep shadow, and you do have a deeper shadow when we compare to the other one at the end. That definitely, this is more like 1 to 20. That's a very dark shadow with very little detail. So it's less than 1 to 8. You can tell that by how you meter. But even by looking at it, just thinking about this being 1 and then this would be half the amount of light. So this would be, if it's half the amount of light, it would be pretty close to that one. The other thing about this, I remember when we presented this one, you've got the light a little bit low, but because she tilted her head up, it ended up doing a pretty interesting shadow across her face, and you get an attractive shadow or light highlight on her cheek. And the way she's sitting is posed well, expression on her face is well done. A lot of very positive things about this portrait. I think it's really, really well done in that regard. And the shadow is not too deep, so it's good figure to background separation. Probably about as good as you can do for the lighting that you're working with. This one is quite different in the two as far as their light quality. This just says natural lighting from the window, but you position the window, frontally to the flowers. I think we probably talked about this when you presented it, but it's got then, you have sort of less dimension being created. So you see how there's dimension being created in her face. We see the shape of her face. Over here, things get very flat because of how close the vase is to the background, but also because the lighting is completely frontal coming from behind you. So that can be useful at times. Other times you don't want to have it flat. Here we have direct sunlight, hard light, of course, on this image. This got a little bit distorted when you put it in InDesign. See how it's kind of squished together? This one looks fine. And then here you have the issue with the fill light using the reflector. It came out really good as far as that goes. I'd say probably the reflector is a little bit on the low side because you're lighting kind of under her neck and you probably want to light more on this part of her face rather than bring our attention to this. So that's more of a future thing. I mean, this is a beginning class with lighting, so we're all here to learn how to improve those things. So if you use the reflector correctly and filled in, but probably you'd want to position the reflector more on this side of her to fill in the top of her face rather than under her neck. But your exposure is done well, balanced between the two, so we don't have the sky is not terribly blown out. We see the grass here, so we've got some good detail in the back. Again, this is a repeat of the mini object with the light from the sky. And this is a nice little still life you've done with the wine glass and the bottle, the sparkling cider. Probably a way to improve this composition would be to crop a little bit. I would suggest, I don't know, I don't remember seeing this one, so maybe it's an assignment that you reworked. I haven't had a chance to grade yet, but I would suggest making it vertical and then getting that bottle a little bit more off center. Another option would be something like this, where you might, if you want to get the whole glass in, something like that could work too. So that way we have that, use the rule of thirds, get that bottle out of the middle, which is making it more static, and then use, so we swing around, we see the fruits and the glass, and then the bottle works good. And this is an interesting portrait. This is much more emotional than the first one. It's got a whole different aspect to it. And I like that you notice that contrast between the two. This is a more showing a more happy, content person. This one, because of the lighting in her face and shadow, it's showing a different aspect of that personality, more ponderous, somber, that sort of thing. Again, we have the issue of the background being too close to her, but remember for your next class to move your subject out in front of the background by 4 to 5 feet, so you don't have that detail in there. And then your last two pages, you've got this one that you need to take out, replace with something else. And then this one is fine from that portrait series. Again, the light here is more evenly and frontal, so the shadows are less. This is 1 to 2 actually. Now that you bring that up, so you see that shadow under her chin. That's 1 to 2. That's about half the light that we have on her face. So this is a good example of the ratio of 1 to 2. So you've got 1 to 2 right there. You've got 1 to 20 right there, and then you've got 1 to 8 right here. Right, just so you understand those different ratios. All right, Nikki, I think you're ready for PHOE 202, and I know you'll do what, or I think you'll do well there if you continue to do the assignments. I think you've got the skills to get started for sure on working with two strobes and reflector and light modifiers. That's the added complications that will come into play in your next course. So good luck, and I look forward to seeing you in a future class, and wish you well with your program study.